It's the Blue Vote Cafe, a little bit wonkish, a whole lot of fun. I'm David Schellenberg, along with Rachel Wigster in Canada's capital, where it has started to snow. It's that time of the year, Rachel. We've had our first snowfall.
It is. I mean, I hope it's actually taken. I would like winter to be winter this year.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Last winter was not winter at all. Well, it was cold.
Well, we got to start like this one, where it started to snow, and we're like, okay, winter's coming, and then it got all warm again.
Yes, that's true. One of the good things about Ottawa, who's often said, is it's the Disney seasons. It's the way that nature intended. At least it used to be.
That's right. Especially when you look at the skaters on the canal and the hot chocolate and the beaver tails, which we don't have to explain today.
That's another conversation for another time. Who's with us today, Rachel?
Well, today, if I told you that our guest is Stewart Reynolds, people might go, who's that?
Okay.
If I said we have the social media darling Brittlestar, many people, especially Canadians, will probably say, why the heck would he talk to you?
Because he has a new book?
Oh, that could be it. Well, let's welcome him, Stewart Reynolds, a.k.a. Brittlestar. Thank you so much for joining us on the Blue Vote Cafe.
Thank you for having me. It's very exciting to be here. And by that, I mean in my own home.
Yeah, we feel the same often, broadcasting or recording from our own homes, which the pandemic made normal somehow.
Exactly. It's worked out for all of us introverts, which is great. So
Yes. Well, you don't come across as an introvert.
I think, you know what it is? I think it's a classic sort of overcompensating. I suffer from a little bit of social anxiety. So if I'm in a room full of people, I will be like wound up and feel terrible. But if you hand me a microphone, I'll be like, I'm fine now. Now everyone has to listen to me.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Stuart, what part of the world are you in?
I'm in Stratford, Ontario, Canada, home of the Stratford Festival, home of Justin Bieber. Home of me. That's as far as I need to go, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
Yep. And you're pretty close to the United States.
Are we pretty close to the United States? Yeah, I'm about like 3 hours away from the Detroit or Port Huron border.
Oh, you're not as close as we are in Ottawa. Yeah.
Yeah. You guys are pretty close, but it's southwestern Ontario, about 2 hours southwest of Toronto, down sort of, nestled in the crevice of the Great Lakes, which is a sexual term in Canada, by the way.
And possibly elsewhere as well.
It will be
Michigan.
now.
It's a term in Michigan that gets used a lot.
That's right. So you're not within the 1 hour. Apparently most Canadians live within 1 hour of the border, kind of huddled up against it to stay warm.
Yeah. No, I feel that's too close. I need a head start just in case.
Okay, we'll get into that.
Yes. Do you know who you're talking to today?
But I'm talking to smart Americans, so that's okay. That's fine.
Yeah, Americans that moved away.
American Canadians.
There you go.
So your book, Welcome to the Stupid Apocalypse, Survival Tips for the Dumbageddon, touches... That got a laugh out of David. I guess he hadn't read the entire cover yet.
I was just impressed with your pronunciation of Dumbageddon.
Oh, I mean...
It was good. I liked it. Very much so. It was, you really hit the G and, and you could hear
the D's.
The D's, exactly.
Almost in Welsh style, maybe.
Yeah. Well, then it'd be Dumbageddon, I think. Yeah.
Probably, yeah. But yes, you have just come out with this book and you address all sorts of things, including politics, social media, and America and Canada. So that's those are most of the reasons why we wanted to talk to you, I think.
Well, that's good. That's good news for me. And my publisher will be very, very happy. It's an American publisher. They'll be very excited about this.
That's awesome. So you might sell 3 copies in 62 countries in the world as a result of
I'll take it. I'll take it.
So tell us what led you to write the book.
It was really down to the money. I think I was offered a lot of money to write it, and I said, you know what I like? Money. And I also like writing. So this is great. This is going to work out perfect for me. But no, I was approached by a literary agency who said, would you be interested in writing a book? And I said, I don't know, it sounds like a lot of work. And they said, well, you could do a book of essays. And I said, that sounds like less work. And I was incorrect. It was just as much work. and lots of mental gear shifting for me. But anyway, so it all came together, I guess, a couple of years ago, and we were lucky enough to get a number of offers and decided to go with Post Hill Press, which is a division of Simon & Schuster, where they're based in Nashville. And they've been great. I have some interesting other authors that are also share the same publisher, which you wouldn't necessarily combine with me if you happen to know my particular content, but that's okay. That's nice, though.
Do you want to name them? I was waiting for the name dropping.
Well, I think if there's a Post Hill Christmas party, other people that may show up would be Lauren Boebert, Kaylee McEnany, and the ghost of Herman Cain.
That would make for a very interesting party once you arrive.
Right.
It's like a modern day Christmas Carol is what it is.
Were all those books that sold well around the world?
I'm sure people bought them.
So why did you choose to focus on the stupid apocalypse?
I think, what it was is I've never been into politics, really. I've never really been interested in politics. I don't like politics. I find it boring. I find it skeezy and greasy and slimy and all that kind of stuff. However, about sort of 7-ish years ago, it became obvious that we kind of shifted away from just like basic politics to, now we're just getting into like moral and ethical type of issues here. Now we're getting into like, people not being able to, people being discriminated against just for being themselves and all that type of stuff. And then I thought we're also getting a little bit too comfortable with not being smart. And the worst part of not being smart is thinking that you're not dumb. I mean, I think you have to, I mean, that's the first step of being smart, is realizing I might be an idiot. And once you do that, then you're on your way to better critical thinking and all that kind of stuff. So I felt kind of compelled to write this book as like a little bit of a pause for people to kind of look and go, no, I might be an idiot, but I'm going to start questioning stuff just in case. Maybe I'm smart, maybe I'm not. And just to get past that whole idea of the, alternative facts and all this kind of nonsense where it's like, no. We're not doing alternative facts and nonsense like that.
Right.
We're going to try to not be horrible to each other. We're going to try to be smarter. And part of being smarter is realizing you might be stupid.
Yes. And looking at the United States, I suppose that's a fair observation to make at times.
I mean, I think it's interesting because, the United States, it gets a bad rap sometimes. I think it's because it's very, very loud. And I think it's certainly loud compared to Canada. But I mean, we stupid doesn't need a passport. Stupid's everywhere in the world.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
And I think Canadians do have a unique take on the Americans because in Canada, we tend to sit and watch so much of what the United States does. It dominates our television, it dominates our news cycles, and we end up with a different perspective of the United States than the rest of the world is. Do you find that as well?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of objectivity you get from being in Canada, right? It's been said many times with Canadian comedy that, it's more objective because we've been watching American culture. I would relate it to like one of the times we went to New York. We stayed in Long Island City, and it was great. It was kind of like the Canada of New York. It was the Canada of Manhattan. It was like, because we could go to the rooftop bar. We could like escape from the city, go to the rooftop bar, which is 15 minutes away from downtown Manhattan, and then watch Manhattan. We could sort of see it all in front of us right there, as opposed to being in the dead center of it or not being able to see the forest for the trees. We could get this sort of, step back view, objective view. And I think that's what Canada has with the US is it's a bit like a sibling relationship in a sense too. It's also like, we watch the US and we learn from the US. We sometimes copy good things from the U.S. We sometimes copy not so good things, but just like you would as a sibling, you look up to a big brother or sister and go, they're so cool. And then they start doing terrible things. You're like, they might be idiots. But we still love them.
Yeah, I think that's very accurate. There are times when Canada sort of gloats at the United States because the United States did something really weird and we didn't. And then there's other times when Canadians are kind of jealous about the United States and some of the things that the United States can do that we just can't do in Canada.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the size to scale is 10 times the size of Canada.
Right.
That alone offers a lot of options for Americans that Canadians don't have. I also think about how, there's a whole big discussion in Canada, of course, about Bill C-11, which is about, protecting and nurturing Canadian content online, there's lots of problems with the bill, but that's neither here nor there for this conversation. Right. But the thing that fascinates me is to always remind people, it's like, well, Canada market-wise is the size of California, a little bit smaller, actually.
Exactly.
And it's like, Facebook doesn't need California. Facebook can be like, you know what? We don't need California. Facebook doesn't need Canada. They'll be just fine. And I used to have these hilarious conversations with people in the know during because I testified in front of the Senate for that bill, and we'd have conversations, and they'd be like, "Yes, but Canada is like pulling in $800 to $900 million a year for them." I'm like, "That is nothing." Right.
Yes.
Like they don't. That's nothing. They're like, "Oh, where did that money go? I don't know. Accounting error? Maybe?
Yes,
I don't know.
It's a rounding error. I agree.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like how Canada got rid of pennies.
Yes, exactly. Just get rid of them. Exactly. Same idea.
Yeah. So now I want to hear more about testifying in front of the Senate about this.
The Canadian Senate.
What led to that? The Canadian Senate,
Canadian
yes.
Senate. It wasn't quite as exciting as when you see on American television where you see someone sitting down and they lean forward and they press the button and they talk. And I didn't get to do that. They did send me a headset, though. That was exciting. It had to be a specific headset. But
you did it from your lair at home.
Yeah, it was like, that's right.
That's already established it was a safe haven.
That's what I requested. I said, if I'm going to testify for the good of the country, I'm doing it from my lair. And they said, fine, just don't wear the costume this time. It was an interesting time because it was important to me, obviously, because that's the realm I work in. And I could see the hoped benefits of the bill in protecting Canadian content and culture in Canadian content, but at the same time, it was just woefully flawed. It was kind of like saying, well, we should make internet videos for Canada, and all the Canadian content creators going, if I do that, I'll starve to death and lose my home. I'm happy to be able to do even the stuff that I do, which is very Canadian content sometimes, and most of the time. It still has an audience like well beyond just Canada, and I need that audience. Mm-hmm. So it was frustrating for lots of reasons. One of the most frustrating reasons was I had a problem with the bill. The opposition party here in Canada had a problem with the government.
It's kind of their job.
Yeah, they opposed the bill not because of the bill, but they opposed the bill because it was the government's bill.
Exactly.
And so when I opposed it, the opposition was like, well, he's on our side now. And I'm like, no, he's not. He's not on your side. Not on your side at all. I'm just on the opposite side of this bill, which is how things are supposed to work. But I mean, that's the Skeezy part of politics that I hate, is that it becomes a game, and it becomes less about trying to do what's best for society and more to just about winning. And that's horrible.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. I do like the tip you give for how you should answer if somebody asks you if you're right or left wing.
I can't remember what I said. It was probably genius. What did I say?
Well, it was pretty good. It's in print now, so you have to live with it. But your answer apparently is, I'm vegan.
God, I'm funny.
I made you laugh with your own joke. Oh, my God.
That's how much ego I have.
Did you write the book?
I did. I did write the book in a panic.
Oh, geez. Okay, we should stump you with more of it then.
It'd be easy. I've done so much media for the book, and I've had questions asked of me, and I'm like, you said this about marriage, and I was like, did I? Okay.
You were pretty good on marriage.
We went to the House of Commons in Ottawa and got a tour from the new speaker, Greg Fergus, who's a great guy, super cool dude, and he quoted me back to my face in his office. And first of all, Shannon, my wife, was mortified. She's like, his ego will never come back to normal size after this. His own words quoted back to him by the new Speaker of the House. But then also he was quoting it to me, and I was like, God, that is really smart. That's really insightful, isn't it?
Well, that's good. You can live behind your book even if you don't remember even writing it.
Exactly.
Oh, and that tour, now I'm jealous of that tour. I haven't had the tour of the House of Commons by the Speaker.
Oh, well, listen, all you have to do is slog it out for 10 plus years of social media. And
Or maybe you can connect us.
yeah, maybe. And then get an invite to the White House 7 years ago, and then wait 7 years, and then maybe you'll get an invite to the House of Commons.
Oh, that's right. You've been to the White House. All right. Tell us about that.
This is more American content. AmCon.
Yes, exactly.
It was back in 2016, and I was invited to go down by the White House social media team because I was a prominent Canadian content creator with a large U.S. following. And they asked me to come down, which I was very happy to do so. It was for the arrival ceremony of Prime Minister Trudeau, and it was very cool. I mean, it wasn't, I need to be totally upfront here. There was also a state dinner at that event, and I was not invited to that.
Oh, boo.
I was even told not to touch the railing on the steps of the White House building itself.
What?
Fingerprints?
I was like, can I reached out. I was like, can I touch the rail? And they're like, and there's a guy with a huge automatic rifle, and he just shook his head. I was like, all right, cool, that's fine. But yeah.
I wonder why. Because somebody would have to clean it?
Maybe dirty Canadian germs, cooties, Canadian cooties. I don't know.
Canadian cooties could be
Socialist cooties all over it.
That would sound like an American paranoia sort of thing.
Socialist cooties.
Yes, exactly. That's how they get you.
Well, let's see. I would never make that joke to that guy's face or any of those guys. They just look like action figures except 6.5 feet tall.
and living and breathing.
Yeah.
And making decisions, smart or not.
But it was great. The whole time in the White House was great. It was fantastic. And it was an honor to be there. It was, I mean, because of course, like, as we mentioned, like being Canadian and living in Canada, growing up in Canada, you're so objectively aware of the U.S., and one of the things that the U.S. does so well is celebrate itself. And I think as a Canadian, that's one of the things I'm most jealous of. I don't necessarily feel like we could celebrate in the same way or style, but at the same time, it's like, man, America's so good at that. I'm always amazed when we go to, I love DC. DC's like America land. DC is like, a theme park about America. It's like, look, it could be like this. Which is amazing. And there's so much thought into the city, and it's just really great, and it's a smart place to be and all that kind of stuff. But even going to the Smithsonian's, and like I remember going to the one about the U.S. history and turning to the left, and it's George Washington's like outfit, his blue outfit. And it's just kind of tucked away in a corner, and you're like, wow, you guys, like from the get-go, the Americans have been like, let's keep this because we're going to be pretty awesome. So just hang on to it. You know what I mean? And I'm jealous of that. I'm jealous of that idea that like Canada should be a little bit prouder, but in a Canadian way, I feel.
Well, and I'm jealous of the fact that the Smithsonian is free to go into, to come to Ottawa and to go to any of the museums here, as beautiful as they are.
Yeah.
It's very cost prohibitive to get into these things.
I don't understand it. It's crazy. It's the same when you go to the UK, you go to London, and the museums are free as well, and it's fantastic. It's so important, I think, to have those things free for people. I mean, it just seems like a no-brainer to me to make them free.
Well, in Canada now, after the trucker protest, the Freedom Convoy a couple of months ago, it's when you talk about the Americans and their love of patriotism, Canada, we went through this weird phase where just hanging a Canadian flag outside your window for a little bit was considered to be a bad thing.
I think it just gave the wrong vibe.
You can't hang your flag.
It was weird. I did a couple of posts on it where I was like, this is silliness. We have to get past this notion that you have to have, a pickup truck and truck nuts and an F Trudeau flag to be able to hang out a Canadian maple leaf. That seems silly. So, I mean, it's, but I think there was also a little bit of growing up that Canada did during that period where it was looking at that kind of group of disenfranchised, disgruntled members of society.
Wait to see where you go with this. Yeah.
And then also like just sort of realizing that that's not awesome, but that's also that's part of what we're trying to do in the country. It's like, if you want to do that, you can do that to a point. But yeah, I think that's also part of that weird Canadian national pride is that, America is very much bombs bursting in there and all that kind of stuff. Whereas Canada is kind of like, listen, we're so sorry. And that's why we're proud. We're proud because we've apologized and we're apologizing, and we're ready to apologize for anything else as well. We will apologize. Anything we've done wrong, let's just tell us about it. We'll try to fix it.
Oh, yes.
And that's kind of like, to me, that's the pride. That's the national pride that I try to take in Canada, is that idea of like, this is like a work in progress. This is like, we're not finished. We didn't conquest anything. We're just trying to like run a nice place here. That's it. You got to fight. Take it outside. By outside, we mean Michigan. Yeah.
So maybe tell us a little about how Brittlestar came about.
Yeah, so I mean, the story behind the name started in 2004, and I was working on an album of music with a guy named Stephen Duffy. He's one of the founding members of Duran Duran and a musical hero of mine. And, and I ended up connecting with him, and he was working on Robbie Williams' album at the time, and in Los Angeles, and he was like, "Yeah, I can help." Was send stuff remotely back and forth. So we did that. And as we were doing this, I was like, you know, when you work with someone who's like at the top of their game, and you're like, I have to up my game now. So you sort of like, you automatically up your game.
Yep.
Which was great. But part of that was me then thinking like, well, marketing and stuff. And I thought, oh God, no one is going to wear a t-shirt that says Stewart Reynolds on it. That's just, I like my name. It's not a rock and roll name.
That's a great name.
It's a great name, but it's not a rock and roll name. I was like, no one's going to wear Stewart Reynolds. It's not weird enough, and it's not simple enough. It's not cool enough. There's lots of things about it. So I was like, I had to pick something else. And so my eldest son and I would read this book when he was 3 at the time, before bed, about marine life. And there's a section on starfish, and there are these starfish called Brittlestars, and they are the ugliest of the starfish. And they are long and spindly. They see through their tentacles, and like all starfish, they defecate out of their mouths. And I was like, cool. That's awesome. So the name, I just sort of took Brittlestar, stuck them together, got rid of the plural, and just made it Brittlestar, and stuck with that. Then to speed up, come 2013, I just started making videos online in an app called Vine, which was 6.4-second looping videos. Right. And I had all the socials. I had the Brittlestar socials. I had the Brittlestar domain names. I was like, I'll just keep them. It's fine. And then it's stuck. And now it's this really weird thing where, people who I've known for years will now refer to me as Brit and Brittlestar. And it's like, that's not my name. Now I know how the Edge feels from U2. Just like him, minus the money. Yeah. And the ability to play guitar as well. But yeah, so that's kind of, I got into it. And I kind of fell into it because in 2013 we had a business prior to that for about 10 years that was hacked, and we ended up losing I think about 75% of our clientele in the first 48 hours of this hack. And my God. We had 11 employees. We had like 4 full-time employees in this office downtown. We had to let them all go, including my mom, she was our receptionist. That's really awful.
Firing your mom.
Yeah, it was really terrible. Though, I mean, if we had done a performance review, she'd probably be gone anyway, so it's fine. We went through that whole phase, and I was really, really down, and I was really, really sad. And so I just kind of did these Vine videos on the recommendation of our youngest son, who was like, check this out. This is like a video version of Twitter, and really kind of got into consuming it. And I was like, I think I should make some of these for fun. So I made a whole bunch of them with me and my plastic Chewbacca doll I've had since I was 10. And it'd be like me and Chewie in the shower. He would like sort of, push the curtain back and be like, rah, 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 rah. And be like, no, there isn't room for one more. And that type of joke. And, but then people started to watch them. And our bartender, one of the bartenders downtown at the pub we go to, he's like, I love the new Chewy videos. They're so funny. And I was like, oh God, people are watching these. Maybe it's something I could do. Messed around some more, made a viral video called Put Your Finger on the Screen, and made a few more after that based on that success. And then Disney hired us to go to California to make a bunch of videos. It was like, oh, I guess we could maybe do this now. And it was it kind of fell into my lap. And I think in the best way that opportunity comes, or it falls into your lap and you're like, oh, I should do something with this, as opposed to having some opportunity fall in your lap and going, oh my God, what is that? And then
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you know at least one of your most watched videos?
Oh, yeah, I can tell you for sure. The most watched video, I mean, apart from Put Your Finger on the Screen. Put Your Finger on the Screen was a concept where you could put your finger on the screen of the Vine app while the video played, and you could move the video up and down, and the video would keep playing. So it looked like you were having an effect on what was happening in the video. I'd be spilling a glass of water, stuff would be knocked over, lights would be going on and off, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, that first one I think is well over 155 million views.
Wow.
And then the second most popular would be a video I did in 2017 called Explaining Canada Day to Americans. And that's about 65, 70 million views in total. So
Wow. Yeah.
And in many ways, that's exactly the best part of what social media is for, is this kind of stuff. And don't you sort of wish all of social media was that?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote just this weekend. I do a newsletter, and I was writing about how Mark Twain said travel is fatal to prejudice and bigotry and narrow-mindedness. And I said like social media is digital travel. We got to start using it like this. We can experience other cultures. We can have shared experiences with people around the world, and there's no reason why that can't have at least a little bit of the same effect as travel. Because I truly believe the whole travel thing is like, if people who travel and people who don't travel, they're different perspectives on things. Even if it's just people from Canada going to Florida to Disney World, it's like this. It's like, okay, it's a different experience. It's evidently in a different culture, not meaning Disney, but meaning Florida or something. Yeah. And I think it's really important. I think social media can be used for that, but it's also, social media is so brand new still. It's still super new. And initially it was a lot of young people using social media, and now there's every age is using social media. My mother uses social media, and she's 76 years old all the time. And people much older than her and much younger than, my youngest son's 21, but he started when he was 11 years old. He had a Facebook account when he was 6 because he was acting in a professional play, and they would just let him go on the computer. He'd like message us 5 minutes before we knew he had to go on stage. He'd be like, hey, it's me. Will you follow me and be a friend? It's like, what the hell are you doing? You're 6. And so, I mean, it's still so brand new. We're still kind of adapting to it and learning from it. My analogy is that, social media is like if the three of us went into a bar and we have a drink together, and there's a whole bunch of conversations happening around us, and it's a busy, packed bar. But I'm paying attention to what you're saying, you're paying attention to what I'm saying, and that's how you're sort of perceiving things. We're selectively perceiving what's happening. Social media is like going into the same bar, but you can hear every single conversation as clear as I can hear you guys.
Yeah.
And we've got to learn how to be like selectively perceptive. I don't need to listen to this. I don't need to listen to that. I don't need to respond to that. I can just focus on why I'm here, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually fits very nicely with kind of our Democrats Abroad group around the world, because so many people started in the United States and traveled for whatever reason, and kind of never came back.
We have our
home.
Theories, don't we?
Yes. A lot of the reasons people never came back home is because they fell in love, and usually they meet somebody on this side of the world, and you get into a relationship, and you realize, you know what, this is better. There's
another way to live. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I think that's like with any country as well, though. I think that people who if they go away to a different country and they take the best parts of the country with them that they've left. And I think it's the same as if people come into your country, they usually bring the best parts of the country that they left as well. Like that's kind of my view on it is I'm trying to think of good examples here right now, but there's a huge, like it was Diwali recently, and it's like, that's great. I mean, that's not really a traditionally a Canadian thing to celebrate, but it's or an American thing to celebrate, but now it kind of is. It's like I remember going through the airport in Vancouver last week and seeing, Joie de Diwali. It's like, cool. Okay. This is becoming a thing. And it's like, what is this holiday? Oh, it's just eating and having fun and stuff. Okay, cool. I'm in. Let's do this.
And lights.
I love that part. I love that stuff. I love it so much.
Yeah. So you were talking about social media, and your idea about how new it is.
Yeah.
Totally agree with that. You do have a section you may not remember, but there's a section in your book.
Accurate.
Well, we learn fast on the Blue Boat Cafe.
Yeah. I've got my cheat notes here.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah,
I have mine too. Yeah. Social media is the big bad world is your section. And
Yeah.
The scene in the bar you were just describing is pretty much your essay. Every idiot has a megaphone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. So, I mean, I didn't really have a question based on that, but
Well, thank you for this opportunity
just
to wax poetic about my memories of writing what I wrote in the book.
But there's nothing new about that. Like, people have been standing
No.
on street corners and shouting weird things for forever.
Yeah. But
Right,
they haven't been standing in your pocket. That's the thing, right? That's the key is that every voice is now in your pocket or in your handbag or whatever, wherever you happen to keep your smartphone. It's, that's the big difference is that, and it's the same thing as with news. It's not just any idiot with a megaphone. It's news as well. It's the world is happening in your hand. When people are in the bathroom, when they go to the washroom and they're holding it and it's like, oh God, this is pretty heavy stuff, while you're battling about a constipation or something. This is rough to sit through this stuff.
There's been Time magazines in the bathrooms for years.
There have been, but I think there's a filter there that you, you're choosing. First of all, you're choosing what you're seeing as opposed to you're not flipping through Time magazine and then that's up to date and updating every second.
And the filter also predates that. It has been curated before it landed on those pages.
Yeah, and I think that's also part of us getting used to social media as well, is that we put way too much weight in every post that happens. Even you even see it with news organizations. And I hate this nonsense argument of like, this is something the mainstream media won't tell you. No, first of all, you are now the mainstream media. And secondly, yes, they probably will. If it's accurate, they probably will.
Yeah.
Well, I find a lot of times the mainstream media actually did mention it like 3 days ago, just because you're so busily not paying attention to mainstream media, you missed the fact that the mainstream media mentioned it.
Totally. I mean, it's not that it's above reproach. I mean, mainstream, we'll say mainstream media is like major network news or something, just for the case of argument. And they're certainly not beyond reproach. They're certainly not faultless. They make mistakes. They do all that kind of stuff. However, they are accountable for those mistakes, and they will kind of, walk them back if they have to, if they're a good news network. Whereas on social media, it's just anything goes. It's whatever gets clicks. And it's so frustrating to watch the misinformation and nonsense and rage bait that happens online. And it's like, this has also been my rallying cry recently, has just been saying to people, you feel like there's a need to react to everything you see on social media. And the truth is you just don't. Just don't. It's like walking through a crowd of people. And it's like walking through Yonge and Dundas Square or Times Square or something, and there's a bunch of people yelling things and saying things. It's like, are some of them correct? Yeah, probably. Are most of them goofwads? Yeah,
yes.
Probably. Yeah. So, this is not the place where you're going to get concrete news. You might hear something. Someone might say as you're walking through a crowd, something about whatever. I don't know, because all frogs are emanating a high pitched frequency that causes you to, I don't know, curl your hair. And you might be like, that seems weird. I'm going to check it out. That's okay. You can do that. You don't have to go, oh my God, it's happening. I better start yelling that myself now. I better start yelling about it. It's just, you don't have to react to everything.
No, but now the dilemma becomes you have to disprove it. So just because somebody said that frogs are giving people curly hair, now you find yourself in this argument of why that's incorrect. And you suddenly go, what? Why am I even spending the time? Yes, people have curly hair, but that's not because of frogs.
Exactly. It's just, it's so hard. This morning I was posting online, there's a story that CBC did about how the Ontario government is spending 2 to 4 times as much money on medical procedures to privately owned clinics using taxpayer money than they would if they would just give the money to public clinics, like public health hospitals and stuff.
Right.
And it's maddening to me. It drives me insane. It's just like, if we have 2 to 4 times the amount of money, then we should just be investing it into, like, we should be just doing that publicly as opposed to making some dude richer. And I want to have discussions about that. And I have to really stop myself because there's people that are just agitators or provocateurs and the social media is just not really, it occasionally does really well in conversations, but rarely.
Right.
It's more of a bulletin board, like a community bulletin board.
Yes.
So how do we mature our way out of this fix and claw our way out of the stupid apocalypse?
I think we have to learn to be more selectively perceptive. I think that we have to learn how to weight things. And I think we have to also realize that we're kind of stupid. I mean, we have to realize that. I mean, it's the Plato thing. It's the whole idea of like, you have to know thyself and you have to realize you're a bit of an idiot before you can get any smarter. And that's the key. There's a little bit of modesty, a little bit of humbleness to it. Sort of say, well, I think I know this, but I'm not positive. I'm willing to hear you out, and then go, no, that doesn't make sense to me. I'm going to move on. And I think that's just kind of the key to it. It's just, we've never had so much access to information.
So much information. Yeah.
Information's never been so fractured as well.
Yeah.
Information wasn't as fractured, back in the olden times, the old days. However, it was biased and horrible in some cases. But at the same time, when you watch the 6 o'clock news, it'd be like, well, that is the news for the day. And this is what's happening. Whereas now you're getting other perspectives, which is good. But people are capitalizing on that, and people are abusing that and exploiting that, and that's not any good. But I think we just have to realize we have to get smarter. We have to not be satisfied with what someone happens to say on Facebook. We have to be satisfied. We have to get better at critical thinking, and I think that's just going to be something that will hopefully evolve to. Because I don't see social media stopping at any point in time. There's too much money.
No. And that was my next question. Do you think that's going to happen naturally and organically, or do we have to take some active measures to ensure that it does?
Well, I mean, in a dream world, I think it would just happen naturally and quickly.
I didn't say quickly, but yes, quickly would be good. And in the dream world, I agree.
Yeah, but I think there's probably going to end up being, ham-fisted attempts at regulating what's information's out there. And that's not necessarily going to be great. And all it's going to do is push information elsewhere. But I mean, I would like to go back to... that's a terrible way to say it. I'm not going to say that. I would like. I have a fondness for the days of when I would be first on the internet in 1992, 93, and I'd be on message boards and stuff, and there'd be wild things written on these message boards, but you would treat them as such. You'd be like, I don't know. That doesn't seem to jive with the rest of the story I'm getting from the newspaper, the radio, and the television. But this is an interesting perspective. Maybe I'll keep my eye open for this, or I'll sort of broaden my mind a little bit to sort of think that's a possibility, but it'd have to be proven. And I think we've kind of tipped the scale all in the other direction, where all we're getting are those wild and crazy bulletin board messages. And there's very little to sort of lean back on and go, is this real? Is this true? We kind of have to do that heavy lifting ourselves. And I think we just have to learn how to do that. And I mean, I think it starts by teaching kids that. And I think kids are getting smarter. Yeah. But the kids who are using social media, who have grown up with it. I mean, our youngest son is 21, and he has a very successful career in social media content creation. He's been doing his own brand deal since he was 12. And he's just very savvy about the whole thing. He once had, when he was 12 years old, he did a video that got shared by some dickhead of a dude who just wanted to make fun of him. And he woke up to just over 500 hate and death comments.
Wow.
And it was just terrible. Yeah. And I thought, had this happened to me, or even our son who's about 3 years older than him, different scenario. Like we would be ruined. I think we would be like, oh my God, this is terrible. But he was like, his attitude was just like, it's the internet. Who cares? Like he was hurt, but at the same time, he was like, this is stupid. Like none of these people are saying necessarily what they even mean, and they don't matter anyway. So I'm hoping kids are getting smarter, and it probably wouldn't hurt for us to, in education systems, to be like, here's how to handle yourself on social media. Here's how to do this. That's evident as well. Just as a side note, it's evident to like it wasn't that long ago. People would be like, oh, listen, if you're applying for a job, you better scrub your social media. You better scrub it. Yeah. I mean, wouldn't you think if someone applied for a job with you and they didn't have a social media past, wouldn't you be like, what the hell are you hiding? What the hell? What kind of sketchy stuff are you hiding? And I'm hoping we're kind of tipping the scales in the other way, where it's now people are realizing that's like, yeah, we're all idiots. We all do stupid stuff. We try to be smart. If you do horrible things, that's different from being stupid stuff. But it's like everyone's got a digital past, and I think that's
everybody's
that idea.
got the one or two pictures that they really shouldn't have posted, but you know,
of course.
they're there. You just have to hope you have good lighting.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Well, that's more hopeful. Thank you.
Rachel thinking about her pictures that she's posted. Oh God.
Yeah, well, I guess I have to go back and look. Just because we do this podcast for the benefit of Americans living outside the country, do you have any specific thoughts to address to them?
I think Americans living outside of the U.S., I would think they should be comfortable and celebrate in their can-do-ness.
Nice.
Which is something that I have come to really appreciate about Americans. It's largely because they've grown up with zero social safety net. But apart from that, it's a great
wrong.
skill to have. It's a great skill to have. You know, we have friends that live in the States that are Americans, and I don't know how, like, they've got kids like we had doing social media, and they had to also worry about healthcare and health insurance payments and stuff. And I was like, God, I don't know how you guys, like, there was like panic about, you know, quitting his job to change jobs to do something else. And that means they're going to go 3 months without health insurance. It's like, oh, man, that's a lot to deal with. But I think that sort of go out there and do it yourselfness translates into this can-do attitude that makes Americans great about having, you know, this idea of, let's just try it. Let's just see if we can do this. Let's just, you know, I'm going to see if I can, you know, even though it's an impossibility, pull myself up by my bootstraps and see if I can and make a go of it. And that's something that you get occasionally in other nationalities, like in Canadians are kind of like that. Scottish are kind of like that. But not to the extent that Americans are. And that's something to be proud of. I think that idea of like, yeah, let's just give it a go. Let's just see how we can make it work.
That's very nice. Thank you.
That's kind of a good place to end. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to end with a quote from Stewart's book, which
I can't wait to hear it.
Nick, what did you say? It's in your chapter called Voting is Too Easy, which I have to say for Americans living outside the country isn't necessarily the case. And also in many states where the vote is being suppressed, it's not the case. But, but your survival tip that begins the chapter, whenever you are given the chance to vote, do it. Do it for the simple reason that it is almost guaranteed that someone dumber than you is also voting.
Accurate.
Absolutely.
This book sounds amazing.
I know, but I think that's worth remembering, and also it's a good opportunity to remind our members to register to vote at votefromabroad.org, which we forget to mention in the cafe in every episode, but ought to.
Not now.
We'll get it right.
Every year, votefromabroad.org and register and request your ballot. And do, as Brittlestar urges, vote whenever you get the chance.
I agree.
Is there anything else you'd like to add before we thank you very much?
I don't think so. Just provided every single American in America and outside of America buys one copy of my book, I think I'll be
And I just remembered I don't know if it's your most recent video, but a recent video of yours just crossed my feed the other day. Do you want to discourse a little on the idea of building a border wall in the northern border of the U.S.?
I think it was adorable. I love the Vivek Ramaswamy, man. He is just it's like he's like a character out of Parks and Rec. You know what I mean? It's like he's like a side character to Aziz Ansari. He's just so good. He's just so funny.
He's going to have a great podcast one day.
Oh my goodness, it's just too much. It's like, come on, people, this is like a Sacha Baron Cohen character as well. It's like, what's happening? Everyone realizes we're being punked, right? Yeah. I will do one extra little tidbit of trivia for you about the book that sort of relates to Americans. Is that when I was doing the process of writing the book, the manuscript deadline was last December, and which is why I don't remember any of it. And it was going through the editing process, and then the first edit came back, and I looked in. You can see in the document, it sort of tells you on the side like how many changes have been made in the manuscript, and it said just under 3,000. And I was like, oh God, this is awful.
Wow.
What, like how could I have gotten my own thoughts so wrong?
I'm laughing as an editor and writer, so this is laughter of solidarity.
And I was like, God, how can I get 3,000 things that they have to fix? And then you go through and you have to approve every change. And I'm going through and it's like, deleted U, deleted the letter U, deleted the letter U.
Yes.
Deleted the letter U.
You spelled color incorrectly, didn't you?
Yeah.
Reverse the R-E to E-R.
Correctly.
Spelled it the way the rest of the world does.
Exactly. So yeah, so the book is any American will have no problem reading it. That's what I'm trying to say.
Awesome. Well, Stewart Reynolds, a.k.a. social media darling Brittlestar, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a real treat.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm Rachel Oigster with David Schellenberg in Ottawa, Canada. Thank you for listening to Democrats Abroad, the Blue Vote Cafe.